Assalam and good morning. Welcome to Adolescent Psychology. I'm sure you have finished studying your child psychology. Adolescent psychology is the continuation of child psychology. If in child psychology you learned about children, in this module you will learn more of the psychology of adolescents. World Health Organization defines adolescents as young people between the age of 10 and 19 years. They are often thought as a healthy group. Nevertheless, many adolescents die prematurely due to accidents, suicide, violence, pregnancy-related complications, and other illnesses that are either preventable or treatable. In this video, you will learn not only about the social, psychological, emotional, and cognitive aspects of adolescence, but also what influenced them to be predisposed to such conditions that threaten their well-being. For the first topic, we will learn about how to do research among adolescents. By the end of this topic, you should be able to explain basic steps in conducting research, classify research design, describe methods and methodology of research, and methods of data analysis. Let us begin our journey of conducting research. There are many steps that you have to go through before you can share your findings with other colleagues all over the world. It involves preparing research until dissemination process. Let us discuss one by one. The first step is for you to have a research question. Think of one topic that caught your interest. The questions and ideas may come through your own observation, reading, experience, or discussion with your colleagues. Here is an example of a research question. How do female teenagers cope with puberty? We will use this example to further explain the subsequent steps. After you have chosen the question, you can start the research by reading more about the topic that you want to study. This is the second step that you should take so that you have a basic understanding of the topic. Search for previous research related to this topic. Sometimes you may find that your research question may have been answered by other researchers. You will therefore have to dig deeper into the issue and know the research gap. You have to search for and read articles, journals, books, and other educational materials related to the issue. Here are some examples of scholarly databases such as PsycInfo, ProQuest, EBSCOhost, and Elsevier. You may want to contact your librarian to assist you to browse through these databases. The next step is to determine research design and methodology to conduct the research. There are many ways to conduct a research that relates to adolescent psychology. There are also various ways to classify types of research designs. They can be classified based on 1. The degree of measuring cause and effect between variables, whether it is a descriptive, correlational, or experimental research. The best way to investigate cause and effect is by doing experimental research. 2. The method of the research, whether you want to do qualitative or quantitative research. And the last, the time spent on the research, whether it is a cross-sectional research, longitudinal research, or sequential studies. Let me explain further about these studies or research. Remember that you want to answer a question of how do female teenagers cope with puberty. In cross-sectional research, you only have to take or measure the variables that you are studying once at one point of your research duration. For example, in this case, coping mechanism. But for longitudinal research or study, you have to follow the respondents of your study, such as in this case, Amina, Rani and Chin, and measure their coping mechanisms for many times. For here, examples is after first, third and sixth month of the study, a year and then the second year of the menstrual cycle. If you are short of time and lack grants to sponsor your study, probably cross-sectional study is the best choice. In this study, when you are measuring variables using questionnaire, the study is called quantitative study or research. If you explore respondent experiences without questionnaire and they freely answer your questions through your in-depth interview, it is called qualitative research. After you have determined your research design and methodology, you can now focus on creating hypotheses and objectives. These are examples of our research objective: to examine the coping mechanism related to puberty among female teenagers. And the research hypotheses are coping mechanisms that are related to puberty among female teenagers are better among those staying at home than those staying in boarding schools. And coping mechanisms that are related to puberty among female teenagers correlate with the age of the teenagers. The next big task for you is to prepare the protocol or details of how to do the research. These include the preliminary preparation of how you address ethical consideration and permission. For example, you have to think of how to get consent for study from adolescents. There are minors, and permission has to be obtained from their parents or legal guardians. You also have to provide details of how you are going to recruit the subjects or respondents. Probably, in this case, you can go to their house or to their school. Next, you have to think of how many samples do you want and what is your sampling strategy so that the number of samples or number of respondents is adequate for you to make generalizations of your findings. It means that with, let's say, about 250 samples or respondents that you choose, do findings of your research can represent all adolescent girls. You also have to think of the selection criteria. Should you include all adolescents or select only those whose IQ is normal, healthy, or those who are able to speak in Bahasa Malaysia or English? You should provide reasons of why you exclude and choose certain criteria. Then you have to write details from A to Z what you want to do during your field work. Finally, after you have prepared the proposal, present it to the ethics committee and get permission from related authority, for example schools. You can start the field work. If you are using questionnaire, make sure you ask permission from the author of the questionnaire to use it. Some authors may want you to pay for the questionnaires and some may not. Then you have to keep your data in an appropriate software. it will help you to further analyze the data too. A few commonly used software are SPSS or Stata for quantitative research, and NVivo or Atlas for qualitative research. This is the example of SPSS. For quantitative research, you should have background statistical knowledge. You must know of how to analyze the data. Here are some examples. First, you have to determine whether your data is parametric or non-parametric. Then, choose which analysis is more suitable. For qualitative research, you may use thematic analysis. NVivo, for example, may help you to create the boxes and circles. Let's say you ask the respondent, "Could you please tell me about your experience coping with menses?" These are few examples for their answer. From these answers, you have to code your responses. For example, the codes are hygiene when they say about not being comfortable, feels dirty or afraid of staining, and maturity if they said something about related to maturity. Your research does not end there. It is the responsibility of the researcher to share the findings. You can publish your findings in scholarly journal or present your findings in a conference. Okay, conducting research is indeed an interesting journey. Hope to see you in other topics. See you soon. Bye.